Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Apple Gaming SE. Well, I guess I'm going to call this my first emergency opinion cast, or perhaps we'll just call this extra Apple news and opinions for this week, because this is going to focus on one topic, and it seems to be a hot topic this week, and I got a lot to say. It might take up its own entire video recording here, so I thought maybe just do this alone, and then we'll do normal news come Sunday, like typical. So today we're going to talk about Beeper Mini and reverse engineering iMessage. Snazzy Labs did a really good video on this. I had seen the headlines this week in the news, but I haven't looked into the topic yet. So I was curious to see what Snazzy Labs had to say. And I think he has a pretty balanced approach on it overall, and you should definitely watch his video. It's worth the time. But it's an interesting topic, so I had to start with this. We'll say in short, Beeper Mini is what Sunbird or Nothing Chats was hoping to do but couldn't do. iMessage as on it's using iMessage on non-Apple devices securely. The biggest win here is that you are never sending your Apple ID to a third party. The serial number or UUID, that's a universally unique identifier, that's in use are both spoofed in a similar to fashion to how Hackintoshes have been doing this for over a decade. This really does look like it could be the golden gun, sorry, playing 007 too much lately, to get iMessage on Android or any other device that can run Python code. The source, initially developed by a high schooler who goes by the handle JJ Tech, is open source and can be downloaded by anyone. The company Beeper has purchased the rights to it, but as part of that purchase, agreed to keep the project open source. So the underlying technology is something called PyPush. It's a Python code that has reverse engineered the iMessage messaging API or application, however you want to look at it. It basically is able to connect to Apple services legitimately from your own devices, even if it's not an Apple device. So I think the only concern that I have here, and this is not a concern for end users like you and I, this is a concern for the Beeper company. The CEO of Beeper, Eric Majakovsky, said he's not worried about Apple trying to bully him with a civil suit due to the reverse engineering clauses that are in the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Which I wouldn't argue, but I would argue is that Apple has a strong case here to still file a civil suit. As someone who isn't a lawyer but has kept an eye on Apple's US court cases, I think Apple could absolutely say you're a legally established company that is making a profit off of our services by using our UUIDs explicitly for profit generation. And that is the reason Apple hasn't done anything to other groups who are promoting their software donationware or purely false projects. These other groups aren't seeking a profit motive. So Apple could, and I believe would, file a suit because the entirety of the PyPush code requires spoofing a valid serial number or UUID. Apple allows white hat hackers and security researchers to use those spoofing tools because of the benefits provided to Apple. Apple doesn't pursue civil suits against false projects because they aren't ostensibly looking for a profit motive, and because of fair use and DMCA laws that allow for personal use of such things. But that's the hitch. That's allowed for personal use. How many of you remember a company named SciStar? This is a company that made 100% Mac OS X compatible computers. They sold you a set of hardware, and if you had a retail copy of Mac OS, which isn't tied to a specific serial number or UUID, you could install it on a SciStar system, a set of SciStar hardware. Then SciStar started selling their computers with Mac OS X. This was in July 2008. I'll spare you all the details, but by December of that year, the company was effectively destroyed in every way except name only and as a minor footnote in the annals of tech history. Apple had won officially in 2009 when the court, citing the DMCA, ruled in their favor. I'm not saying that what Beeper is doing is wrong, morally or ethically, in terms of bringing more secure messaging options to people all around the world. And I don't think you, as an end user, is wrong for wanting to use your computers or your phones in a way that you intend. But I think an organized set of people with a profit motive, that is, a company or corporation, using another company's technology and systems without compensating that company is unethical. And I know people will try to dismiss this as, yes, but Apple is the richest company in the world. But that doesn't change the fundamental moral position here. Beeper is, and will be, using part of Apple's services and infrastructure and won't be compensating them for the trouble. And that is wrong. As Leviticus 19:35 says, "You shall do no wrong in judgment, in measures of length or weight or quantity. You shall have just balances, just weights, and a just ephah, and a just hin." So the legal and moralistic side of things aside here, let's just step away from the legal. What do I think about it? I think you should use whatever is easy and effective for you to use. If you want to and can compile PyPush on your devices to use iMessage, then by all means do so. This is a free-to-use open source project, and your devices are your devices. Modify your code and modify your devices to your heart's content. I'm confident that iMessage is vastly superior to Google's RCS implementation because their end-to-end encryption is not, in fact, end-to-end encrypted. I did a post about this a couple weeks ago, so I won't rehash it here, but you should take a listen. In closing, Beeper is playing with fire. Don't be surprised when they get burned. And whatever we think of iMessage being a lock-in mechanism for Apple or not, Apple thinks it is a key business differentiator and will defend it as such.